Welcome to Business Playmakers, the podcast that meets with innovators, trailblazers, and leaders to learn about their experience and what success really means. Hosted by entrepreneur and leadership coach Kyle Gorman.
Business Playmakers is presented by the Employer Blueprint. Employer Blueprint is dedicated to management and leadership development through one-on-one coaching and group seminars. You can find free resources from Employer Blueprint through YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And for more information, simply visit employerblueprint.com. Hey, it's Kyle Gorman, and I want to thank you for checking out today's Business Playmaker, Steve Winkler. Steve has been the CEO of the Hagan Boys and Girls Club for the past 17 years. Prior to that, he spent 18 years in education, both as a teacher and a principal, and 22 years coaching high school basketball. Steve has a great story. He is full of energy. There's no question whenever he walks in a room, but he has a lot of tremendous experience. He's a very bright man. I think you're going to enjoy the episode. Welcome, Steve, to the show. Steve, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I appreciate you coming and kind of sharing your story and sharing where you are and kind of what success has been to you over the last several years. So as we jump right in, just kind of walk us through your professional experience and what that's looked like.
Well, coming to Owensboro, I'm originally from Miami of Ohio and came to school here at Kentucky Wesleyan and played basketball, which has been a great avenue for me. But once I graduated from Kentucky Wesleyan, I've got into teaching and coaching right away. Graduate from Wesleyan with a biology degree, and I was about 4 or 5 days after graduation and received a call to go into coaching and teaching in a local high school. And I did that for about 15 years, and then about 5 years went into administration in the private schools. And I felt like that was something I needed to do, was help kids. But once you get into that avenue, there's more to helping families and kids. So about 17 years ago, I decided to become the CEO of the Hagan Boys and Girls Club. I felt like school, I may not be able to help them as much as I can. And the families as well, because you have them in a classroom 45 or 50 minutes. But with Boys and Girls Club, it was a great avenue for me to go down to be able to help families in need, that I can touch their lives immediately and work with them to accomplish what they need to do in their family lives.
And so you've been there, you say, for 17 years?
17 years.
Okay. And how has that organization grown and evolved since you've been there?
Well, it was really unique because the Boys and Girls Club had never had a capital campaign. When I first came in, it was kind of a reorganizational process of looking at the model of Boys and Girls Club of America and where they were at here in Owensboro. So we decided to have a capital campaign, build about a $4 million facility, and look at where is our immediate needs. One was in our local housing, which opened up in 1990, which we are still there. But we had some outlets and some local school districts that the after-school programs were helping them. So we didn't need to be there. They were already having some assistance. So we expanded over into Indiana. We're looking to expand in Henderson and also in Ohio County. So when I came in, we probably had about 600 members on our books. Now we're up to about 1,900 members and outreach to about another 1,000 kids. So our goal is just to reach out to families and get the families and kids who need us the most in the right areas.
Very cool. So through the course of your career, what mentors have you had and what is it about them that you've been able to look to?
Well, it's hard just to designate one. But if you look back, I think it begins with parenting. I've often said that, being in my career and seeing kids through the school systems and Boys and Girls Club, it starts at home. So I think having two parents who cared about the family and the morality within the family, I think that's where it starts. And I think with anyone, it's the life process of teachers, coaches, counselors. When you get into business, you're looking at your peers. and looking at people who have been successful in a lot of different ways, because a lot of people measure success in a lot of different avenues.
Right.
So I think it's just a gamut of a lot of different things, from parenting when you're born all the way through college, high school, everyone lending some type of knowledge and understanding of where you want to be and where you're going, and they're there to help you.
Yeah. And through the course of your career, are there any particular kind of peak or pinnacle moments that you would say, this was a professional win for me that you really got to enjoy and experience?
Well, I think the majority of looking back, fundraising has been, I guess, my forte. And I think in the nonprofit world, even in the school systems nowadays, and with Boys and Girls Club, it's about fundraising. And I think Mike Polio, who was the basketball coach here at Kentucky Wesleyan, and also the assistant at the University of Louisville, kind of helped me in that aspect. But as I look back and being successful in my professional career, it's those kids that you touch, or those people that you touch, even families or parents, and come back and say, you really helped my kid through school. Or kids coming back and saying, I really enjoyed, you led me to success. I've had players now, when I coach, come back and say, I never would have made it in college if you weren't tough on me. Because I see we're not as tough on kids today than we used to be. And I think one of my biggest pinnacles is building the Cliff Hagan Boys and Girls Club Mike Horn unit. Because we serve about 1,500 kids in that area. And that was people again measure success. Is it buildings? Is it what you've done? Is it the money you earn? I think it's the relationships that you build, and people come back and say, you helped me along the way. So I think that's important. That's
really good. And so, Steve, as you've kind of gone through that career, I'm sure you've had a few lessons learned along the way. I often say, if you work one day, you found a way to fail as well. And so, but through the course of that, do you have any moments that really stand out as just kind of a professional fail, just that one thing that you obviously came back and learned from, but the one that you're going to be able to tell the grandkids someday how Grandpa might have messed this one up?
Well, I had one that sticks out in my mind, and my wife reminds me quite often about it. It was kind of outside my realm, getting into the business, opening up a Subway. And getting in the business world. I've got some rental property that I manage along with the nonprofit world that I work in. But I was getting into the profit world and opening up a Subway. There's a couple things that I learned from that. One is to make sure you have good partners. And there was a one bad partner that I dealt with that it didn't go well. Second of all is making sure that you understand the business. And have a good business plan. That was something that I think I stumbled over, thinking that I knew a good business plan, and it's different from the nonprofit world business plan for a profit world. So that didn't go as well. After about 5 or 6 years, the business was not successful from the financial standpoint. The partnership did not work out as well. And at 10, we had to close, and it hurt in the pocketbook just a little bit as well. So I think that was probably my biggest failure, was looking at that.
Well, some good lessons learned there.
Exactly.
So we've talked quite a bit about this concept of success, and I like the way that you've mentioned that everybody measures that a little bit differently. So let's talk about you and your world. How do you define, or how do you measure success?
Well, I think, again, it's different for everyone, as we've mentioned. I think the two things that really stick out is, one, having respect from your peers. Building those relationships, so when you pick up a telephone, they answer your telephone call. They don't put you on hold. They don't say, hey, I'll get back to you. They understand what your mission is about, what you're doing, and it's the respect that you earn from your fellow peers. I think that's the biggest thing, is those relationships. And the second thing is looking, when you talk about, is looking at accomplishment. When I look back at accomplishment, the things that I do, if it's fundraising, if it's model programs within your organization, a business approach that you take. If people model you, that's saying something about your business or things that you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think building those relationships and understanding that respect and coming back and seeing other organizations or other people or other businesses model what you do is a sign you've been successful.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it, is that if they are coming after you and wanting your ideas, you've been successful.
You've done something right.
You've been very successful.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, your career sort of shifted as you talked about, out of college, getting into teaching and coaching and then into administration. And then really, although maybe kind of the same personal mission of helping kids, but certainly professionally, a different direction going into the nonprofit world.
Correct.
So do you think that concept or that definition of success maybe has changed through the course of your career?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you get into coaching and that type of thing, it's always about wins. That's how people measure success.
Sure.
And it's across the country, if it's high school or college or even now in the middle school. And you may have had some experience in coaching. People want to win.
Yeah, they do.
And if you don't win, you're out the door.
Yeah.
So I think that concept is different, but no, I think when you get into looking at that success, it's changed over the years. Now a lot of people may not agree. You look at strong business people; it's about the dollar and what they have to answer to the board, their investments. But again, if you put all that in perspective, that success of money making and the things that you do comes back about building relationships with people. So I think it all kind of comes together.
What are some keys that you could point out that you've been able to focus on through your career that have helped you? So just kind of what are some keys to your success, you think?
Well, I think it all goes back with people that work for me and the things that I've been involved with. I always tell people, if you're going to be successful, you have to be happy at home. Your family comes first. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty prerequisite of being successful, is that take care of your family. Make sure that you're staying up with their needs as well. Make sure that you have good mental and physical health. Work out. Even if it's walking 10 minutes a day to collect your thoughts. I think that's where it all begins, because if you have an unhappy home life, you're probably not going to be successful and have a happy mental workplace. And that's with coworkers. That's with building those relationships, as I mentioned before. So I think that's a key component. And second of all is about reaching out into your community and how you can get involved with your business or your organization, so people understand what you're about. You're also involved in giving back and not just taking. And I think that's a big transition in today's world, is about giving back and understanding how everything works together.
That's a really good point, that it's important for us to find those areas and find those ways that we can give back to others and use whatever talents we've been given to help somebody else. So let's talk about the future a little bit. What do you think the next 10 years look like for you professionally?
Well, hopefully I'll be able to retire. You wonder when you get 56 years of age that you're looking at retirement in the next 10 years. But again, I think you go back, it's about helping people. I mean, when you're put on this earth, you're put on for a reason. And that's to make the world a little bit better place. So in 10 years from now, I think I see myself still working with people. Trying to help people in their careers. I don't think you can be a person that can learn everything. I think life is about learning along the way, no matter how old you are. And I think that's something that professionally that you're looking to do, and try to exceed people's goals as much as you can. Even if it's a small area or to a large area, is be there willing to give your advice to someone to try to make their life or their business better.
Yeah.
So that's where I see myself.
That's
and
great.
hopefully retire.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of that, what does retirement look like for you?
Well, number one, I like to do a little bit of travel.
Mm-hmm.
I like to travel. I think, again, going out and seeing different parts of the world
Mm-hmm.
instead of the community that you live in,
Mm-hmm.
and see how other people live in those communities.
Yeah.
I mean, you go out west, it's a different environment. You
Sure.
go up east, it's a different environment. It's a nautical world. You go south, it's a different environment.
Yeah.
I think just seeing those things, spending time with my family. But I think one thing I really would like to do is, once I retire, still help out with the nonprofit world. I don't think people realize the importance of what nonprofits do in all communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
The time that they put in, the money that they put in, because if they're not there, the city, county, and state governments or have to put these money and time in.
Right.
So I think the nonprofit world is a very vital aspect of any community and what they do, and that's what I'd like to do, is still continue in that role, helping people.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds great. So, Steve, what do you do if whenever you leave here today, you get a phone call and you find out you just won $1 million? What do you do with that money?
Well, I don't think I would change a whole lot.
Yeah.
I think money changes people. Even $1 million or $20 million or $100,000. That's something we've always, my wife and I and family, is that, we're still going to be rooted.
Yeah.
I think we probably would invest a little bit. Maybe I could retire a little quicker.
Yeah. Maybe.
But I think, again, the role is, I've always said that no matter how much money you make, you're not happy unless you're helping someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that I would still continue that role now, is being able to help other organizations financially to make a meaningful impact.
Yeah.
And continue giving back, because I've always said that you can't outgive God.
Yeah.
He gives you a lot, you can't outgive him.
That's true.
So I think that's where I would be.
Yeah. It would be great. I continue to hope that someone in our community wins that $1 million. And see what they can do with it.
Exactly.
So I know, something you obviously are very passionate about is helping others. So let's talk about that. And the first thing, we're going to talk about just personality in general. So you've had the opportunity through the course of your career to work with and deal with and handle a lot of different personality traits and personality types.
Yep.
But are there any particular characteristics that are your favorite to work with, whether it be a boss you've worked with or a coworker, or just personality traits that you tend to kind of migrate towards that you see as very healthy and beneficial?
Yeah, I mean, we have about 6 full-time employees, and I have about up to 54 part-time employees.
Yeah.
The thing that we look at employees is, number one, I hate negative people.
Yeah.
You have to be a positive person, especially dealing with children.
Yeah.
But even in the workplace, you don't want that person coming in who's unhappy at home, as I mentioned,
Right.
Who brings things to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's that positive attitude that you need to wake up with every morning.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
You're given that extra day, make it positive.
Use some. Yeah.
So I think that's really stands out. One is I don't like a micromanager. You have to work together as a team.
Right.
No one is more important than the other person. And I think sometimes we tend to forget that there are people who feel like they're a little bit more important, but it makes a team go. It makes your workplace go. It makes your business go,
Right.
which I think is very vital. And the other thing is that you're not too old to learn. The world changes every single day.
Yeah.
From technology to whatever the situation may be, world changes daily.
Right.
And you have to be able to manage and change in that world daily, and that's with people as well, because you've got the new millenniums now, and they're not from that strong work environment that I see.
Right.
They like to give and take and kind of do things on their own time, and I think we see it as business leaders very frustrating at times, because it's a different breed of a cat.
Yeah.
and you have to be able to give and take,
right,
but still manage your business and continue the goals that you set.
Yeah,
just in a different manner, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's key. In my world, we hire a lot of people through the recruiting business. And,
correct.
I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people about this concept of millennials and that generation. But I do think a lot of it is that as managers and leaders, we have to adapt to understand this is the workforce. And
correct.
So, just as the generation before them and the generation before them had to learn how to adapt to
correct.
a new workforce
correct.
and new personalities. And, so I think that there's definitely something to be said for that, and just trying to learn kind of the new rules of business and be able to operate.
I was going to say, I go back, you're not too old to learn.
Yeah.
Because in the business world, it changes daily and people change as well.
Right.
And it has to have an impact on your business world.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have any resources, whether it be books or authors, speakers, anything that you would recommend to others that you felt have been beneficial?
No, I mean, I don't really have a particular one. What I do is try to pick up reading. It's not maybe so book. It might be business magazines.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a Newsweek. It might be a book that Denzel Washington wrote.
Mm-hmm.
What I like to do is find and read things from personal experiences, what people have learned.
Right.
And they lead you down the road of success.
Yeah.
Because they've been there, they've done that.
Right.
So there's not a lot of things. I just try to pick up things in news articles, maybe a newspaper, a business magazine, people that have gone through experiences, and try to use and say, hey, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And just see their outcome, because I think that's reading is a part of learning. Mm-hmm. And if you don't read, you don't learn.
It's true.
And so there's so many references and resources out there. The internet, exactly is when you can pick and Google things in it and learn from the internet as well. Find all kinds of things you may not want to know.
That's true.
But there's so much resources out there to help new people get started.
Yeah.
They have to have mentors. They have to have resources. They have to be able to build those relationships and learn, and I think that's all part of it.
Yeah.
All part of it.
That's great advice. So before we close out, what kind of last-minute advice might you be able to give to others that are out there that are striving for success?
Well, I think, first of all, define what your success is.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you my success, is about building relationships and earning that respect and community people. Others might be money, it might be travel. I think you have to define what success is. Because a lot of people will jump into a workforce or start your own business thinking this is success, and once they get into it, it's not what they think success is. So I think put your family first.
Yeah.
Make sure that's always important. Define what you see success is. Set your goals.
Yeah.
And try to attain those goals. And once you try to attain those goals, make sure that you're able to be versatile in means of change. I think that's hard for a lot of people in businesses, that you have to be able to adapt and change.
Right.
And if you don't, success may not be there in your eyes.
Sure.
So I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, very good.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you coming in and sharing your story. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for checking out today's Business Playmaker. Links to the resources discussed in today's episode are available in the show notes. For more information and resources from your host, you can visit him at www.kylegorman.com. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast for the latest episodes. And until next time, make it a great day.